Hello and welcome back, everyone. Let's talk today about understanding sales. So, we have our entrepreneurship chat with Marilen Crump. Hello, that's me. And this is episode 3. So, watch the previous episode because I talked about marketing, which of course goes hand in hand with sales. And if you remember from that video, we talked about the relationship tiers. And we're going to speak on that subject yet again. And as we're talking about just understanding sales, just know that this is a short snippet in consideration of that. Technically, I could talk to you about this for an entire year because there's so many details when it comes to sales. But I want to give you what I really rely on when it comes to helping other people build their businesses and get those transactions going. So where we're going to start is our relationship tier 5. So if you watched the previous one, we talked about thinking of it like as a bullseye. So 5 is your bigger circle, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Because as those things collapse down, then they become more specialized. And in more newer terms, people talk about funnel marketing. So it has a lot to do with that as well. I may explain things differently than other people. It's always good to get a lot of information under your belt so that you can make things that fit for you and for your type of business. So I'm not sure what you're doing at the moment, whether you are an online entrepreneur, whether you are a brick and mortar store, if you are, doing a service or a product, all of the above. You really need to understand how these tiers work. So I put in here relationship tier 5 on acquaintance. So if I'm just meeting you, I'm just becoming familiar with your brand, you probably can't sell me something too complicated or too pricey unless I'm just like in total need of it. Okay. So part of sales is also what do people value? And you have to understand that. But I'm going to be doing another video just on the values that people buy. And so for this one, I just want to break down the tiers and how if you parallel it with the marketing, it might start giving you some great aha moments so that you can move forward in your business plan. So at a tier 5, when you're pricing certain things, well, I'm just getting familiar or just pretty much learning about your brand or product. Maybe this is where you would give me a sample, a taste of what's going on. So I don't know where you live, but I'm in Virginia and we have a Chick-fil-A here. And if you ever go to one of the malls, and they give you a sample. And so what that does is gets you familiar with what they do. And even if you're just walking along, who wouldn't want a free bite of a good smelling piece of chicken? Maybe if you're a vegetarian, but for those who are into that, it's like, well, that's a welcome interruption, right? So if you're thinking tier 5 marketing and you're doing social media, what would be a welcomed interruption that we might find engaging? So if you look at marketing, asking a question, right, on social media, like on Facebook, and you start getting some engagement, that's good. But then what can you expect from that audience in regards to sales? So if you have some kind of simple opt-in, if you really kind of pinpoint what people's needs and values are at that point, then you can invite people to join either a mailing list, something that's not very committal, maybe they'll check out your page and like it. So at that kind of area, you aren't doing things that are just too much of a thought, like a heavy thought for the person who's engaging with that piece of marketing. So what you can sell is a freebie. That's when you would create something that's a sample. And when you're doing that, try to leverage the next step. So I would love to keep in touch with those who are at tier 5. So one of the things that I would do is create a prospects list. So one of the tools that I definitely love these days is Notion. So Notion.SONOTION. That's where I keep track of a lot of things on the cloud. You might even find that you can create so many things. I'm going to plug Notion for a minute. I don't get any kind of affiliate for that, but I want you to know what tools I use so that it can make your life easier. So Notion is where I would put and collect certain ideas. And then also just keeping track of like how things progress. You could do another kind of CRM, another kind of database that helps you track your prospects and how they turn into clients, because that's probably the best way to keep track of how are sales going and how are things progressing with those that you just meet on tier 5. So you can also use your email list, because that is technically a database. But unless you're really good at like tagging things and adding extra notes in that database, whatever you're choosing. I know people have MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact. There's so many different types of email lists that you can have. I just like having extra options in order to tag and keep track of things, keep track of finances. So I customize my Notion to do that. Okay, so that's pretty much easy to understand. And a lot of times, what happens is people don't have this segment figured out. They have a product that may be more for a tier 3 person, maybe a tier 4, or let's say you're just getting into coaching and you're thinking, I'm gonna sell all these packages at tier 2, which is this higher ticket area. So then people are like, well, I don't really know you yet. I'm not that familiar with you. I'm interested, but what is it that I can grab at that moment that will give me a better sense of how we're going to work together? So my suggestion to you, if you have something already configured for a tier 2 or a tier 3, is to create different pieces that people can start engaging with and transacting with on tier 5 and tier 4. So we just mentioned keeping it free, low cost. If you're pricing anything in tier 5, I normally use a dollar range, so $0 to about $50 or $65 normally would be great. Now you're going to hear me say some pricing ranges, and then there's going to be some like in between prices that I don't mention. And what I mean by that is if I go to tier 4, I think tier 4, tends to live at around like $60 to $99. So we're still not breaking over $100 just yet, because at tier 4, I'm interested, but I don't know if I'm that interested yet. I'm not very vested. I'm not very loyal just yet. And so when you have a discovery call, normally those are free. And then hopefully during a discovery call, if you're a coach, a consultant, a VA, etc., then you could use tier 4 as kind of a way to, bring them into an even deeper understanding of what you can do. And so that would be the call, because it's not just about price. It's also about time and attention. At tier 5, we're not asking much time, nor are we asking much money. At tier 4, even though it might be a free consultation or a free discovery call or anything else like that, it costs me time. And especially if I have to go and drive somewhere, right? So even if it's a Zoom call, there's time involved and I have to clear my calendar. So that ends up being more of a consideration. So that's why we would not place that at tier 5. So if you have a free webinar, it's kind of in between a 4 and a 5, because those who come to the webinar would definitely be tier 4. Okay, they're interested and want to learn more. And because you don't have to, ask for a bigger fee at that moment, keeping it low, because if you combine a fee and time, you're kind of crossing into tier 3. Do you see what I'm saying here? Because we have to value the person's time and money. So we want to be able to create things that we can transact with at those different tiers. If you have an upgrade from a tier 5 to a 4, that's pretty good. So let's say you're doing a free summit, that's more for like a tier 5 person. And if you want to check to see like, maybe some people that are watching this or getting ready to engage in this summit, maybe a tier 4 person, I'll test that out and create like a ticket for them, and where they'll get extra bonuses and maybe replays of the summit, etc. So then you can kind of see and segment your list from there. You can say, okay, these are the people who signed up for free. These are the people who signed up for that little bit of a fee. Then we're kind of getting into an understanding of like who is in your database. Is your database just filled with tier 5 people, or do you have some tier 4 or even tier 3 people in there? So you can almost kind of divide these by leads. Some people talk about warm and cold leads, but it's too vast, right? To consider somebody just a cold lead or a warm lead or a hot lead, what quantifies that? And hopefully this understanding gives you a little bit of that insight so that it's easy for you to kind of place people in those right spots. So I don't even think of leads per se. I think about these relationship tiers. Now on a relationship tier 3, then you're looking at a price of over 100, maybe 125 to about like 250, 375. You can definitely price things in that area for a tier 3 client. So if you're not having a lot of luck converting at even that level, again, is your marketing, to go back to that marketing video, do you have enough things that expresses the tier before tier 3, like the 5 and the 4? Okay, so at tier 3, make it super amazing, give a ton of value for that. By that point, people are already loyal to you, they love your brand, and so they're willing to pay for that. Ding, my phone just dinged because my phone says yes. My phone agrees with me. Okay, so we are going to then move into relationship tier 2, so that you can charge over $1,000 or more. So this is where your high ticket stuff falls into place. So notice how things progress. Okay, do you have to have a product in each tier? Not necessarily, but I feel like it will kind of give you a better foundation. And especially if things like slow down for you, you want to have multiple streams of income. And this is what's going to help you figure that out, because you might think, okay, I need another stream of income, but then the thing you're creating is another tier 2. Then if you only have a bunch of tier 2s, right, all these high-end products, online courses, coaching products, etc., and you're thinking, I'm not converting, I would probably, if I was your business plan coach and strategist, I would say, can we figure out a way to portion out some of these things that you have in tier 2 and create a tier 4 level, a tier 3 level? That way, when people are meeting you, they just need that extra time to really figure out if you're going to be what they're looking for. And if they could do that at a more, not as committed level, then it would be easier. Okay, I'm so excited. I'm like stumbling over my words because this is super cool. Now, if you have a tier 1, that's if someone's buying into your business. That's if you want to like really partner up with somebody. This is very, very much in like high stakes kind of thing. So really have, someone look at what you're doing in that process. There's a lot of businesses that don't have a tier 1 sales area, and that is just fine. Okay, like you don't really have to have that. Like in some classes that I teach on sales, we just leave that out because technically, that would be like selling your business or something else that's just really pinpointed like that. Tier 2, I do serve a lot of people who have those. I have coaches, I have people who have online courses, and they'd like to price it higher than just a tier 3. Now, how can you make something that's tier 2 feel like a tier 3? And so what I'd like to offer to you is the thought of creating a payment, either a bundle, but also a payment structure where people can like split the payments up. So even if you're selling a high ticket, if you're not asking for all the money up front, or you have some way where they can kind of pay it month to month, then that feels better. People then feel like, okay, well, it's really a tier 3. I'm not risking as much every month in order to get that service. So some of you might do very well in sales if you can structure your product to have multiple options of payment. So are we paying in full, or can we break this up? And some rules of thumb is that you want people to pay you the full price of whatever it is that's high ticket prior to the end of that high ticket service. So you definitely look at things like that. If you're pricing things at a tier 3 on those breaking up the payment, let's say you have a $3,000 product service, okay? If you were to say, but you can pay 10 payments of $300, so it'd still be the same amount, but because that $300 feels like a tier 3 transaction, you may get better luck, not luck, but meaning you might find that the conversions are better at that point when you offer that. And if you want to kind of think about, okay, sometimes it is a hassle getting that payment every month. So there's people who will say, if you pay in full, it's $3,000. If you want to break it up in payments, it'll be $375. That way, for the the kind of inconvenience of waiting for that payment to be paid in full, then you would add an extra bit of service fee to that. Okay, or in reverse, you can say, this normally would be $375 a month for 10 months. However, as a discount, if you pay in full, then you would, get $750. You would save $750. So that's kind of like, oh, well, let me consider that, right? Because then once they consider it, most of the time, if people are more fully vested in that sale, then they're going to commit better, and they're going to find that, okay, I really got to buckle down and really make use of what I just spent money on, right? So those are the ways that you can structure pricing. And there's other things to sales in regards to, what people value. Like I said, I'll go over that as well. If you are needing extra help in sales, please do not hesitate to contact me, because we have different workshops going on all the time. If you want to work with me in a mastermind, I definitely invite you to check out 1K in a Day, where we practice those sales skills. We have calls, check-in calls, where we can put you on the spot and see, like, how are you doing with some of your materials? What are you implementing? We have a launch sequence that you could study along with us and kind of give you the right tools in order to make those sales. 1K in a Day promotions. Okay, so please look into that. If you have any questions about what I talked about today, feel free to DM me. Probably the best way would be through Instagram, and send me a message. I would love to hear about what you do for business. And remember, networking is always an amazing thing. So if nothing else, let's network. Tell me all about what you're doing. I'm also the president of the Phenomenal Female Business Network, so I would love to see you participate in there as well. So this is Marilen Crump signing off. Don't forget, you have to subscribe. Okay, subscribe, get the notifications. That way, as I'm building more of this entrepreneurship chat, you get all the goodies. Okay, all right. Until next time, see you around.